everybody. Thank you for joining. I'm going to get us warmed up a little bit as folks continue to enter. So, on behalf of the OB division, totally delighted to welcome you to our second annual off-cycle PDW on preparing for the job market. If you are on the job market this fall, let me be the first one to welcome you to it. I know it can be a stressful time, but I hope that you can remember that all of these faculty members, we have fantastic faculty members today joining us. We've all done it at least once successfully, and you're going to be successful too, and we're all rooting for you along the way. So credit for this session, most of it goes to these fantastic people, these fantastic humans that you see on the screen: Margaret Luciano, Shannon Taylor, who with me run our doctoral programming for the division as your representatives at large. I also want to give a big thank you to Brandon Fogel, who is our fantastic OB PhD student rep, who's been helpful behind the scenes and getting everything ready for this session. We have 300 people registered today. We'll see how many we actually yield. So we have 35 amazing faculty members joining us to contribute in various capacities. And the session is going to unfold in two parts. So for this first hour, part one, we have 18 seasoned faculty members who have been part of the hiring process, instrumental either as search committee chairs, active members of the committee, or just have seen a lot of different hiring processes. And so they're here to join for the first hour to share their perspective and wisdom from being on the other side of the search process. And in the second hour, part two, we have a new group of 17 faculty members who are going to join us who have successfully navigated the job market at once or multiple times in the last few years. A few housekeeping items to set us up for success. So we'd be delighted to see faces on video if that's available to you, but please make sure that when you're back here in this big room with us, you remain on audio mute. We also have the Q&A enabled for the virtual workshop. So attendees, you can ask your questions anonymously, and then all of our faculty hosts, panelists, breakout group leaders, you're set up as a co-host. And if you feel so compelled, you're welcome to grab those questions as you see them come in and answer them. We'll be using the chat today. I'll be trying to monitor the chat. So many of you maybe on the job market, and Shannon, Margaret, and I hope to see many of you at our OB doctoral consortium. We had a record number of nominations again, but there's a bunch of other programming that we have designed to help support doctoral students, and we wanted to take a quick moment to get us warmed up, and as other folks join, to review some of the other fantastic content that is designed to complement this session and other resources that we have, including consortia, to help better equip you in navigating the job market. And with that, I'm going to kick it off to the fantastic Margaret Luciano to walk through some of the content that we have this year.
Thank you so much, Beth. So as Beth mentioned, we have a lot of other programming designed to support you in this process, the whole variety of different skills. I was very excited for the AOM conference program to finally be available today. So we can check this out, and please check out some of these additional opportunities. So we have a great session on enhancing productivity. So thinking about the productivity process, other opportunities for networking with some senior scholars and peers at the OB Research Roundtable. So these are roundtables and they're organized around different topics. So for example, if you're interested in studying teams like I am, you can go to the teams table and learn, get to meet a few scholars that are more senior and get to meet your peers that are also interested in the same topic. And then we have work on research development with our OB Research Incubator. And then we have a fantastic session for you on managing academic collaborations. So thinking about these tips and strategies for, how are we going to think about these teams, these collaborations differently, particularly as you're thinking about transitioning from working with people locally to thinking about your new jobs, new potential, and then navigating the job market. So today's session is focusing on kind of the OBHR job market sort of broadly. But there are other sessions that get into more specifics. So we've got one that's thinking about positions in the Pacific Asia region and some kind of those do's and don'ts of thinking about international business schools. And then we have some fantastic sessions on navigating the publication process. Okay, so just a few little reminders about the goals and assumptions that we're thinking about for the session today. We are here to help support you. We're excited that you're here, and we want to share our experiences, offer advice that you can learn from, and help you to build kind of an understanding of the job market. As I mentioned, we are kind of broadly focused on processes related to the OBHR job market as opposed to like a really specific market or a really specific type of job. And as a legal disclaimer, we make suggestions, you make decisions. And then with our norms and design principles. So we're a huge group. So please do keep yourself muted in the main room. That Q&A function is enabled. Please feel free to ask some questions there as well. Co-hosts, we and our faculty roundtable leaders, we appreciate your help answering those questions. In the breakout rooms, if you feel like it's appropriate in your context, please do put on your video. We'd love to see you, love to start building some relationships. Hopefully many of you will be seeing at the OB Doctoral Consortium. And as you move into these breakout rooms, we know there is some limited time, so feel free to jump right in, introduce yourselves. And as you're thinking about questions, we love questions that are of really broad relevance that can help all of us in this process. So in this first section, we have, again, these expert faculty roundtable leaders. These people have been so gracious to come and share their time with us, but to share those perspectives kind of from the other side of the hiring table. So they've been on multiple hiring committees, been through the process. So it's my pleasure to get to welcome Mike Baer, Gala Chen, Stephen Courtwright, Michelle Duffy, Parker Allen, Richard Gardner, Michael Johnson, Dana Joseph, Audrey Korsgaard, and David LaBelle. We also have Michael Park, Kylie Rochford, Katina Sawyer, Christina Shalley, Troy Smith, Brian Switter, David Tannenbaum, and Kelly Wilson. Now, kicking us off is Michael Johnson and Kelly Wilson. So they've been gracious enough to prepare some formal remarks to kick us all off that we'll get to have these great commentary from these two before we move into our breakout rooms. So Michael and Kelly, thank you so much for being willing to come and share these insights in this broader group to get us all warmed up and excited about the job market.
Great, thank you, Margaret. Hi, everyone. I'm Kelly Wilson. I'm a professor at Purdue University. I've actually been here 15 years. I had to look some things up on my CV for this session to remind myself about how many search committees I've served on. And so, but a quick background on me, been here 15 years. I teach our leadership classes at the undergrad and master's level. And then in terms of research, I'm known for my work in the work family, work non-work space, stress, and leadership. As I said, I counted it up. I've served on 18 search committees at my time at Purdue. 6 of those were for tenure track hires, and just a couple of them were for more teaching lines, visiting faculty. And I chaired one of those searches. So here to kind of share my insights about about sitting on the other side and what we look for as a search committee member. And then before I hand this off to Mike to introduce himself, actually, this takes me way back when I joined my PhD program. Mike was already in the PhD program at Michigan State, and he quickly became kind of a mentor and a co-author with me on the first JAP that I got. So,
oh, that's great. Okay, and I'm Michael Johnson from the University of Washington, and yes, we are both Spartans in terms of our PhD, although Kelly got her undergrad at the University of Michigan, so we have a little bit of rivalry there. I've been here at the University of Washington for 18 years, my first and only academic job, and I've chaired 3 search committees, and I don't remember how many others I've served on before. It's a challenging process. And so happy to share our thoughts with you on what we look for on the other side of the table. So let's advance. And here's the thing. So the last job search that I chaired was 2 years ago. We had 130 applicants for one OB position. And this is common. So you need to recognize that it is a very competitive market in OB these days. There are enough jobs for everyone, but the sorting process is kind of difficult. So because of this, you should probably apply to as many jobs as you can, places that you would feel perhaps maybe comfortable in going there. At least it would be better than not having a job at all. But that pool is going to be pretty big. Now, from our side, we then review all of these applications, and typically there's a smaller committee that is reviewing every application. In some cases, we split those up, and some will review like maybe a quarter of them, and then we come back together with the candidates that we think are the most promising. To do that, different schools use different kinds of criteria, which we'll talk about more in just a second. But then we narrow down typically to a shorter list, and then we narrow that list even further down to just a few people that we are going to bring out. We're going to fly out to campus to give a job talk and to meet with faculty and doctoral students. So you can already see that this is a really competitive process. You know, with over 100 candidates, we're bringing out maybe 4 that we want to interview in person. And then from there, it narrows down farther, obviously, to the single person that is going to get the offer. However, that single person doesn't always accept the offer. And so in most cases, what the faculty will do is to have a list of the people that they think are acceptable. Sometimes they will rank those. And so that we know if that person that we're making the first offer to declines, then we can immediately make the offer to the person who's second on our list. I will freely admit to you that I was the second choice of the University of Washington, and I'm happy playing second fiddle, and I've been really happy here ever since. So you should never take you not being the first choice as any sort of sign about your quality as a candidate or as a potential faculty member. There's a lot of really close calls that are being made. And by the way, the person who got the first offer, they're very successful where they are too. I'm just happy that they didn't take this one because I love living in the Seattle area. And what Kelly and I want to argue today is that the skills that it takes to make that first step from being noticed in the applicant pool to getting a flyout are very different kinds of skills than what it takes to make that second step from having the flyout to getting an offer. And at that first stage, it's mostly about complementary fit, where the faculty at the university that you're applying to have needs. We have needs for teaching. We have needs in terms of wanting to increase our research status. Sometimes we have other more specific needs that Kelly will talk about in a moment. And so complementary fit is the idea that the organization has needs and the candidate will supply those needs. And so we're looking for what are our gaps and who are the candidates who can most likely fill those gaps. On the other hand, when it comes to getting an offer, it's much more about supplementary fit. And supplementary fit is discussed in terms of similarity or congruence. And so in that time when we're meeting candidates face to face, we're still doing a little bit and thinking, how well are they going to supply the needs we have? But more, we're looking at how similar are they to us? Like, do they fit our culture? And so we're seeing, are these people that we can effectively work with because they share our values? And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But that's what we want to get you started on thinking here is that the skills that it takes to get the flyout are different from the skills that it takes to get the offer. And now we want to give you some advice on how to do that.
Great. Thanks, Mike. Just to kind of repeat something Mike said, I was actually the second choice for Purdue as well when I interviewed here. And I'm very good friends still to this day with the person that got the first offer, and she's doing amazing and happy where she is. But look at Mike and I. We both stayed at our first institutions the whole time, made it through tenure, and now full professors. So don't take that as any sign that a school isn't excited about you. We come down to almost splitting hairs over people, right, to try and make these choices. So, okay, in terms of complementary fit, again, this is the idea that each of our departments or schools has a need or a gap that we need to fill. And so what does that look like in terms of what we're thinking about? Well, we're thinking about research areas. And so here at Purdue, one thing that was a little bit more unique coming here from where I was at Michigan State, my PhD program, is we do have a longstanding Masters of HR program, and our faculty in the OBHR area are pretty split on research expertise. So we have a bunch of us that are more OB scholars like myself, but we have a bunch of faculty here that are also more HR scholars. And so that type of balance is something we think about and look at when we're hiring candidates. And kind of related to that, teaching needs. And so because of our HR program, perhaps we have certain HR courses that need to be taught and need to be filled. So that could be something we think about, looking for candidates that can teach specific courses. And then in terms of our PhD program, more recently, we realized we needed someone to teach one of our research methods courses. So that was just another need that we were trying to fill when we think about how to fill these gaps in our area. So that's one thing. And then along with that, once we kind of identify these areas of needs and people that can potentially fill them, we find someone that offers a new area of research expertise or can teach one of our classes. We also then want to try to assess whether they're going to actually be successful here. So if we hire them and we get them to come here, can we keep them for a long time to keep teaching that course or doing that type of research? And so we look extensively at applicants' research area, their productivity, their pipeline, how things are kind of going there. We think about their network. Are they starting to publish with people outside of their advisor and outside of the faculty that are advising them in their PhD program? Because we're going to look for candidates to start to become more independent and publish on their own. So do they kind of have those networks in place? And then their letters of recommendation from their references can help get at how ready this student is to become a faculty member. And of course, lots of questions about your dissertation and where the dissertation is at. So you'll speak to that and we'll get to kind of the job talk in a few minutes, but thinking about where you're at in the dissertation. And we really want to find people that are going to get that dissertation done and join us having their PhD already and ready to focus on their careers as faculty. And then finally, another big thing here at Purdue is we have a PhD program we think about all the time, and we're always wanting to hire people that can contribute to that program, and we're trying to assess, even with rookie hires, will they be able to, in the next few years, work with our PhD students, as well as mentor undergrads and teach well in the undergrad space. So we'll look at what teaching experience you have, how your evaluations have gone, and things like that. Mike, do you have anything to add on this one?
Well, Kelly, I wonder if you just want to mention what you were saying about how Purdue has changed your search from looking for some very specific people to, as you've grown, you've changed?
Yeah, so we have just in the past couple of years, so there's still going to be always this thought of, is there a need, is there a gap we need to fill? But because our faculty have grown and we have more tenure track than we've ever had before, and we seem to be continuing to grow, which is good news. We're still waiting to hear if we're officially approved to hire this year, so stay tuned. But we have a center that we've started here with the hiring of Allie Gabriel called the Center for Working Well, and we have quite a core group of us that all do research in similar areas around kind of work, non-work, and well-being. And so we're also looking for some kind of complementary fit there. If you don't have to be super unique anymore, but if you can speak to something that the center tries to get at, that's also something that we're looking for.
So yeah, when smaller schools often will have much more specific needs to fill than the schools or smaller faculties than larger faculties. So larger faculties might have a little more bench strength for various things and might be looking for simply the best candidate out there. Whereas for the smaller faculties, they may be looking for a very specific kind of person. And so it's very important that you highlight how you are that specific kind of person in those smaller faculty programs. Okay, let's advance to the next slide, please. So how do you get a flyout? How do you make yourself stand out as a candidate in your application packet? Here are some suggestions. First, you need to have clear, up-to-date Vita and Google Scholar. Students sometimes wonder, like, can I update my Vita? Because application packets might be due early. And then you've got something that is hit, or you've got an R&R, and absolutely you should update that. And it depends on the school. Sometimes you can do that, just through the online portal. But I would encourage you to send it, find out who the search committee chair is, and then send your updated CV as an attachment, highlighting that progress that is made in your CV. We also suggest that you have an active Google Scholar page. So if you have never set that up and identified which publications are yours, assuming you have some publications, then that's a great space for people to be able to go and learn a little bit more about you. Second is that I often see the letter that accompanies the packet to be very general. And oftentimes in the research statement, it's very general about the kinds of things that the person does. The ones that stand out to me are the ones that highlight their connections to the Seattle area, or to Washington, or to people on our faculty, that show us that they have more of a connection with us. They're more interested in us than just as a place to get a job. So you want to personalize that. It's going to take you a lot of time, but you can have like much of your research statement be kind of generic, but then some paragraphs that are going to highlight how your research overlaps or has some synergies with the research that faculty are doing there. I need to be careful in this, because sometimes I've seen people say, oh, I'd really like to work with this person, and that person is an adjunct faculty member, is a teaching faculty member. And on the page, it highlights their research interests, but then we're like, oh, this person doesn't really know our faculty, and that's kind of a red flag for us. So you really want to do your research to figure out what it is about that school that you can connect with. Third is that you need to highlight how you might contribute to the school. And here's, I think, the greatest piece of advice I ever heard, is that getting a job offer or even getting a flyout is not a reward for your past work. It is a prediction that you will do good future work when you are a faculty member at that school. So you should be highlighting what you plan to do, not simply what you have done that make you qualified for this job, so that we can make a prediction. Okay, when they get here, they're going to hit the ground running and be an immediate contributor. And then fourth, get recommendation letters from faculty that people know. And it's never too late to expand your network, but often we'll see packets with recommendation letters that are all from the university where the student got their PhD. And we're like, yeah, okay, and maybe we know some of those people. If you can expand your network, if you're working with people from other schools, particularly people that are well-known scholars, or at least well-known to the faculty at the school where you're applying, that says a lot to us. When we trust those people, and we see those people trust you, then we start to trust you as well. So having those recommendation letters from people the faculty know is really critical. Kelly, you have anything to add there?
The only thing I would add, kind of related to that, is one thing that I did as a student with my dissertation committee, and we kind of recommend here, is that if any members of your dissertation committee know people at the schools you're applying, it doesn't hurt for them to send an informal email with your CV attached to just do a quick introduction for you and to warn their contacts that you'll be applying. That can be helpful as well.
Yeah.
Okay, great. We can advance. Thanks. Okay, so then moving on to kind of how to get the job offer. So we've talked about the complementary fit, now the supplementary fit, which Mike was talking about as the, how well will you fit into the culture of the department? So we've identified that you could contribute to the department, but now we're trying to assess, do we want you to be the person contributing to our department? So thinking about the culture, will this candidate kind of just easily fit right in to the department? And be engaged. So one thing we always talk about at Purdue is, will they be engaged? So will they show up to meetings, contribute to meetings? Will they show that they kind of care about this place and the things we're trying to accomplish? So anyways, ways to fit in is, like I just said, coming to faculty meetings, maybe the department has lunches or other events, dinners when we're interviewing again for candidates, or other kind of events on campus where we celebrate. That's something our bigger department head has started to do here, is like every semester having a dinner where we all can gather and kind of celebrate different awards people have won. And will people be at those events and kind of attending and those kinds of things. Something we look for, and this kind of connects back to what Mike was talking about, how to personalize your cover letters and your packet. We're always really trying to figure out why somebody applied to us, and what, kind of why Purdue, and why would you want to live in West Lafayette, Indiana? Many of us live here. We love it here, but sometimes we have to try to assess whether you really want to live here as well, and whether that would be a good fit for you. We can advance to the next one as well. And then I think there's this part of each of us, and this is kind of each individual faculty member that's making an assessment of the people we're interviewing. Is this someone that I would like to work with? And so can I see myself in the future sitting on these types of committees with this person, collaborating on research with them, mentoring PhD students, or working on PhD program related kind of issues with that person? Is that someone I kind of want to do this with?
So how do you make yourself stand out? We talked about how to make your packet stand out for complementary fit. Now, how do you make yourself stand out when you're actually there doing your campus visit? Here's some suggestions. Boom, advance. Your job talk is critical. You should practice your job talk. Not so that it's going to come across canned, but so that you are ready. And you should practice this with people who are going to ask you hard questions. So that you can figure out how you're going to respond to those kinds of questions. It needs to be well organized, and you need to have good time management. Sometimes I've seen job talks where we get to the end and they're like, oh, I have 17 slides left. And then they're clicking through them very fast. And we're like, this isn't very positive. It's okay. We are going to be okay if you say, I really like this discussion we're having, but I really need to move on, so we get to the data or something like that. And then we're all like, oh, yeah, you're right. Sorry, we're distracting you from what you need to do. But you have to manage that process. Second is the research question has to be both interesting and important. So if it's not interesting, to us, it's not going to be interesting to everybody, but it should have some element that is a little bit counterintuitive or a little bit unusual, that would draw people in. And so having a hook at the beginning of your job talk that draws people in the same way that you have a hook at the beginning of a journal article, can be really effective. You should demonstrate both your expertise and your independence. So one way to demonstrate your expertise, that's a great way, is in response to a question that you might get in your job talk, is to have a citation that you're going to use to answer that question. In your methods section, if you're presenting an empirical piece, then it's great if you can actually teach something. Like if you're doing something that's a little bit unusual that we might learn from you, because we're not all up to date on recent methods, and maybe you have a newer kind of method you're using, that can demonstrate your expertise. But also independence. As Kelly said before, we want to see that, like, we know the other people you've published with, perhaps, we know they can do the work. We don't know you can do the work. And so your job talk is demonstrating that to us. And that you need to show a promising research pipeline. Always good to have that in a job talk. This is where my research is going. As I said, we're trying to predict what you'll do in the future. And so that research pipeline helps us make those predictions. In the meetings and the interviews, we want to see that you can talk research, that you're not just going to chit chat, but we want to have engaging conversations about research. In that, you should have knowledge about the school and the research that the faculty are doing in the school. When I came to the University of Washington, I read Tom Lee's book on qualitative data analysis on the plane on the way here, and then I talked to him about it. He's like, "Oh, no one's read that book. You've read that, And so having that knowledge of the research that is being done by people in the school, so that as you're talking with them, you're talking about their research, can be really effective. And then finally, that you show an interest. Like Kelly said, maybe not everybody wants to live in West Lafayette. Not everybody wants to live in Seattle. We want to see that you want to be one of us. that you have an interest in us over and above. And there's someone in the room who was our last OB hire here at the University of Washington who did this better than any candidate I've ever seen. It's Jessica Lee, who's going to lead one of the breakout rooms. And she read the faculty research, not just of the OB faculty, but of our strategy faculty, and then wrote emails to the people that she wasn't meeting with saying, I'm really interested in this thing, and here's some ideas that I have. And our strategy faculty were like, these were really great ideas. And so she went above and beyond in showing an interest in us that really kind of sealed the deal for the offer for her. So last thing that we want to mention here, I think we can click again, is that you don't drink too much. If we have seen this, people who go out to meals and they're very nervous and they end up drinking too much, not a good sign. I'll also say from my side, humor is a dangerous thing to use when you're on a flyout, particularly if it's spontaneous humor. I lost an offer from a good university because I tried to say something spontaneously funny in my job talk. I lost a chance for a flyout for another university because I'm interviewed with them at the Academy annual meeting, and they asked, what's the worst thing you think about being at the university in this state? And I said, well, it's in that state, which it was not a state I wanted to live in. Did not get the flyout as a result. So be careful with those kinds of behaviors. Keep yourself under control, and it's okay for you to be somewhat serious, but be friendly as well. Kelly, anything to add there?
No, I think you covered it really well. It was great.
So we wish you the best. Make your packet stand out by showing how you're going to contribute to the needs that the school has. Make yourself stand out by showing how well you fit with that culture that you're going into. And you're much more likely to have success in getting through this process with at least one offer in hand. Back to you, Beth and Margaret and Shannon.
Thank you for that amazing opening. So there were so many important things that you highlighted, and while we're getting the breakout rooms queued up, I'll just kind of emphasize a couple more of them. So I know sometimes the job market process can feel really evaluative, that you can feel like everything is being analyzed and evaluated. But what part of what you were hearing is, we actually want you to be happy. We want you to make sure that you're a good fit, that you're going to come here and we're going to hear success stories of, oh, I've been here and I've been here for, all 15 years. This is my first job. I loved it and I've stayed and I've been a really engaged colleague. So that, we really do want you to find those places that are those good fits. And you've just gotten this amazing set of tips to help signal that fit or avoid signaling misfit. So thank you so much, Kelly and Michael. That was fantastic.
Thank you. And so now Harry is going to create 18 rooms, and participants are going to be randomly assigned to those rooms. And just go ahead and start introducing yourselves, and then we're going to be sending faculty members who are our breakout group leaders, and you guys will have about 20-25 minutes to have a conversation about the job market and ask some of your specific questions. So just be patient. When you get there, it might take us about a minute to get everybody routed to the right spot. And with that, Harry, if you would just open up all the rooms for us, and then we'll get you your faculty co-hosts.
Thank you for everyone who's here for part two. If you're just joining us, welcome. It is our pleasure to have you here and to host you here for this event. If you've been here for the first part, we're so pleased that you're going to stay and stick around and listen to what our wonderful new panel has to say. So part one was, you're talking to and hearing from people who have sat on the other side of the job table, right? When making offers and evaluating candidates. Here, we're going to be hearing from just this incredibly talented group of people who have recently, in the last few years, successfully navigated the job market, landed at really stellar places, and have some excellent advice to share with you. So you go to the next slide here. We'll introduce. Oh, Yes. So again, if you're just joining us, we have some goals and some assumptions and things that we want to share with you. If you've been here, this is just a repeat of sort of how the next hour is going to go. But we want to start by saying we're here to support you, right? Our goal is to share our experiences and hopefully you can learn some things from them and understand this job market better. We, again, are broadly focused, right? This is a big room and OB is a big field. Idiosyncrasies, you can save those for the job, for the breakout rooms, but we're going to be talking about process broadly. And as Margaret said in the first part, this legal disclaimer, we just make suggestions, you all make decisions. So this isn't legal advice or anything that's binding. And we hope that you'll continue to stay muted in the main room. The Q&A function is enabled, so please drop questions there. We've got lots of people eager to respond to that and help you out there. Please share your video if you're able to. It's always great to see faces and put faces to names. And then once you get into the breakout room after we have our panelists talk, please quickly introduce yourselves and we'll get to work. So without any further ado, let me introduce to you our amazing group of junior faculty roundtable leaders. We have Valeria Alterman, Zachariah Berry, Bailey Bigelow, Bijam Bilgen, Dorian Bunker, Nitya Chabla, Monique Domingo, Samantha Erskine, Olivia Foster Gimbel, as well as Rachel Hahn, Edwina Hill, Remy Jennings, Jessica Lee, Velvetina Lim, Florencio Porto Carrero, my favorite name to say, Brady Shinklin, and Yufei Zhang. Okay, so these folks will be leading our breakout rooms in the later part here. But first, I'm going to turn it over to our panel of recent job seekers. It's my pleasure to introduce you to Bailey Bigelow and to Nitya Chabla. So the floor is yours.
And real quick, sorry to interject. Harry, can you make sure that Bailey and Nitya can both screen share? Thank you.
Hi, I think I'm going to go first, so let me just share my...
Yeah, I think they're co-hosts, so they're good to go.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just figuring this out. Have yet to figure out how to use Zoom, however many years in. All right, so hopefully you can see that all right. So thank you so much for having me. Thank you to Beth, Shannon, and Margaret for putting this on. I think that this is such a valuable session, especially for the up and coming job seekers. So I was so happy to be a part of this. My name is Bailey Bigelow. I am currently at the University of Utah, or I will be in a few short days. And when I was asked to do this panel, I reflected on sort of my experiences with the job market and being on the flip side of that as well, having been at a university where we've hired as well. And I thought about things that, maybe really stressed me out at the time, or I just didn't know, and what I would go back and tell myself if I knew then what I know now, kind of thing. So that's what I'm going to talk to you about, is sort of that advice that I would have given to my previous self. And I hope that it can help you in some way. Like Shannon already said, advice is advice. So if it doesn't tailor to you or doesn't fit you, that's okay too. It's just simply my thoughts and advice on this. So just to give you a little bit of context, I got my PhD from UCF in 2021, which meant I was on the job market in 2020, or affectionately the COVID job market, in my rookie year. So that was a really unique experience in terms of sort of how the market moved and what job talks looked like and everything like that. So obviously a little different than what a lot of you will go through, but the same premise. I was really fortunate to land at LSU, where I spent the last 3 years. And then last year, so the 2023 cycle, I applied and then I received a job offer from the University of Utah. So I will be starting there on July 1st as my second job placement.
And Bailey, sorry, this is Beth, just to interrupt. Could you hit swap displays so we can see your slides big?
Sorry, yes.
No, I just want to, the slides look great and I just want to, yeah, perfect. Thank you so much.
Thought they were swapped. Good thing I don't have any embarrassing notes in there. All right, so Some advice I'd give to my former self. The first is to get to know yourself and then also get to know the school. I think this is a really great time starting off the summer to really think about who you are as a scholar, what your research package looks like, where you think your career might take you, where you sort of want to end up. And I say this because as you're putting together your package, so your materials and thinking about interviews and, why these different schools, I think it's really helpful to kind of internalize these ideas or these thoughts within yourself of like, what type of scholar am I really? Like, what is my research pathway or interest and everything? And I think really taking the time to think deeply about that now will help you when you're answering these questions, putting together your packages and things like that. And then, of course, it's really important to get to know the school. So something that I learned throughout the process is you can almost never do too much research on these people when you're interviewing and giving job talks. So making sure you understand sort of like what the business school is, who's there, what their research interests are, if they have a PhD program. So when you're preparing for these interviews, I do think it's really important to kind of do a little research on the school, make sure you have these answers, and then you can also assess through that whether they're a good fit for you and how you might fit into them and be able to kind of indicate that to them when you're interviewing and doing campus visits as well. And then my next kind of set of advice is it's not personal. So I think when you're on the market, it's really easy to feel stressed and nervous. And then when you ultimately probably get rejected at one phase or another, you attribute a lot of these reasons probably to yourself, or like I at least questioned a lot, like, oh, like, did they hate me or did I mess up? And like, of course, that's, maybe you didn't shine in an interview or something, but I'd say by and large, it really is about fit, which I know Nithya will talk to as well. But you don't know like what their needs were, what the other candidates might have looked like, timing and things like that. And so I guess like my point here is if you don't get the job or like you didn't get an interview, try to take a deep breath and know that it's not because they hate you or because like you're a bad person or anything like that. And they also probably, when you're hiring, there's so much movement going on that people don't they don't memorize the list of applicants or anything. So it's not awkward or weird for you when you see these people again at AOM or in the future. You don't have to like feel afraid to say hi or anything like that. It's all very normal. It's a small field. It's a long career. So try not to take it personally, and just know that it's not like always just because of you. It's to do with the market and who they're looking for as well. And then another piece of advice that was given to me and I really fully believe in is let them tell you no. So a lot of times people are trying to assess like, oh, who are they going to hire, or what are they looking for? Are they looking for like a rookie, an assistant, things like that? And you don't know unless you're on the committee. So I definitely recommend applying broadly. Don't take yourself out of the running. Let them do that. So put your best foot forward and then let them decide if you're a fit for like an interview and a campus visit and things like that. And then the last kind of pieces of advice I have are research, and practice. So especially when you get to later stages where you're interviewing or giving campus visits, I think that it's really important for you to do as much research as you can on the school, the department, the place, because ultimately you have to make an informed decision of whether you're going to live there or not. And whether it's a good fit for you. So try to gather as much information as you can, especially on a campus visit. Look into this city, try to understand as much as you can, so that when you make that choice, they're evaluating you, but you're evaluating them. So it's really important to kind of have this information. And then I think, most people will tell you this, but I do think it's really important to practice at all phases of the job market. So interviews, job talks, the questions you're going to ask. For interviews, schools will ask you about your research, your dissertation, your teaching. So thinking through like what you might say in response will help you to like better internalize these things and then give these answers with more ease. So I think the more you can think about things, the more you can practice, the easier it'll feel to go through this process. So that's what I have for you today. I'm happy to help. If you ever have any questions on more specific things, please reach out. I'm between emails right now, so you can find me on Twitter or LinkedIn. I'm happy to communicate or share more of my experiences if those are helpful. And I think I'll turn it over to Nithya now.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Bailey. That was awesome. Thank you so much to Margaret, Beth, and Taylor, Shannon, for organizing this. This is, like Bailey said, all the right things. It is so valuable. Thank you to all of you for taking the time to hear from us. I hope that I can deliver in a way that you find useful. But as Bailey said, this is really just our perspectives and our reflections, and all of this should be taken with a grain of salt. But hopefully you'll find some nuggets here that are helpful as you begin this journey, which truly is exciting. I'm sure it doesn't feel like that right now, but one of the biggest things is being able to start this process, feeling really excited about just being able to show your work and get to meet more people in the field, right? We often don't get that when we're a PhD student. And so this is one of our first opportunities to start doing that. Bailey kind of alluded to this earlier on, but I kind of consider the job process as one being all about that fit. And so let me tell you a little bit just about my journey in terms of the job market specifically. So I was a fourth year PhD student at the University of Arizona, and I was applying as a rookie. Well, I ended my fourth year, applying as a rookie, and I applied to 24 business schools. I got 12 academy interviews, which, I should note that's kind of changed post-COVID. There's a lot more people interviewing via Zoom at various times in the summer and even into the fall. So take that with multiple grains of salt. That translated into 4 campus visits, which ultimately translated into 2 offers. And then I withdrew from the search after that. I joined the Texas A&M University as an assistant professor during COVID. So that was the summer of 2020. And 2 years in, I started applying as an advanced assistant professor, and I applied to 8 business schools. So I was far more selective the second time around. I received 2 campus visits, and that translated into 1 offer. And then again, I withdrew from the process because there were a couple of schools that were still going on and offering talks a little later. And then I joined the University of Minnesota last year. And so that's where I'm currently at. And so if I think about the process broadly, I think it's also really helpful to kind of deconstruct it into different bites. And so the first, and again, Bailey mentioned this a little bit, but apply broadly. This is really, really important. I'll put an asterisk here because unless the university is located in a place where you absolutely would not want to not be able to live there for whatever reason that may be, you lose very little by applying, but gain a whole lot more, right? You get the knowledge of the types of people that are there. You may actually enjoy your interviews with that place more than you thought you would. And there may be people there who you thought you couldn't collaborate with, but turns out you can. And I'll say this even from the reverse side of being on a search committee multiple times at Texas A&M. There were times when we thought we were going to hire an advanced assistant professor, but a rookie smashed it out and we just hired a rookie instead. And so, when you see those advertisements and it's like an open position, it feels super daunting. Apply. You have no idea what's going on the other side, how many positions they're looking for, what are their considerations. And so you've got the same packet. You're not doing a whole lot of tweaking at that point. And so again, you can gain a whole lot more than you have to lose. Campus visits are exciting, but remember that you are evaluating them as much as they are evaluating you. So trust your gut. We know from our research, right, that emotions are informational. They tell us how we think about things, how we're feeling about things. So use those as emotions. If there is a place where you're kind of like, oh, that was kind of icky, I didn't enjoy my time there, that is information that's important to have. And the reverse is also true. If there was a place where you were like, oh gosh, I could really see myself here, another huge signal that we want to pay attention to. And that goes into the job talks part as well, right? The job talks are a place where I found it really useful for each of the times that I was applying and I was giving visits, that I was also evaluating what was going on in the audience. Who's talking to whom? Are they joking with one another? Are they coming and talking to me before or after the visit, right? Yes, they are evaluating your independence as a researcher, they're evaluating your teaching capabilities, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But you're also evaluating them, their collegiality, their collaborative experiences. And so use that process to your advantage as well. And then finally, ask a lot of questions. This is one of the things that we often get very in our heads about, right? Where you're kind of just like, I already asked this questions about living here or cost of living to this group of people. I don't know if I can ask it again to this next group of people. Ask it again. Triangulation is your friend. And I would go on to say that you should also ask questions to the PhD students. Take those meetings with the PhD students. If it's a department that has a PhD program, seriously. They're evaluating you, so don't forget that. Students often have a say in the process, but you can learn a whole lot from PhD students too, because if you were anything like me as a PhD student, you were very unfiltered. And so there's a lot of information that you can get from them, and the answers could be a little different, and that's more information for you. So think about this all in terms of the data and the information collection process. I also kind of like to think about the job market experiences in relation to myths. So what are some of the things that we need to let go of as a field or in PhD programs more specifically? The first myth is that it's a competition. Well, only if you want it to be. You actually have a whole lot more to gain by viewing the people, your cohort mates, as your friends and future collaborators, right? These are people who are going to be in the field long term. I was so lucky to be able to do this alongside people who became really good friends of mine, Angelica Lee and Sean McLean. We were texting each other's after job talks and being like, hey, this is what the University of Georgia asked me, and I was thrown off guard. Make sure you have a good response to them. Oh, I know that, University of Washington is looking for this, so maybe you should try and signal those aspects of your candidacy. And they ended up being awesome co-authors and people who I'm just always going to have in my network, right? So it's all about how you want to go through this process. And I personally have found it to be so much more fun and fulfilling by not viewing it as a competition. Pubs, and pubs, are those the only things that matter? Yeah, your published work matters, but it's not the only thing that matters. You're presenting your market holistically, your packet holistically, right? And so it's also about what do you have in the pipeline? Do you fit your research interests fit with something that's going on in the department? There might be some initiatives that the department is trying, and you're a perfect fit for those initiatives. So yes, absolutely, you want to showcase your research capabilities. There's a question about the chat regarding to teaching. Maybe you're able to teach a specific topic that is exactly what the department is looking for, right? And so that's a perfect fit right there. The publications matter, but don't take yourself out of the running simply because of that. There's a whole lot more that's involved. Location doesn't matter. Maybe, maybe not. So COVID-19 happened, and one of the things that we realized pretty early on into our move in Texas A&M was that actually we're kind of city people. COVID-19 really rushed that realization on our part. And so if that is something that's important to you, take that into account. And I'm not saying stay an additional year if you can't stay an additional year in your program. I'm not saying give up all the choices that you have just for location's sake, but it's okay to factor that in, right? This is a place where you're going to be living and working for potentially a substantial period of time. And so you should take into account your lifestyle and your preferences as well. And that's where asking questions can help as well, right? Does the location that you're looking at, does the lifestyle that they offer match the lifestyle that you're looking at? And then finally, I'm going to end off on the big note of we have to get away from this narrative of it's a great time to not be a white man. I've seen that happen a lot over the past years on Google, on like the dreaded Google spreadsheet. There are conversations at Academy with this idea that it is individuals with minority non-work identities that are getting all the good jobs. That is simply incorrect. And I promise you, it's actually serving nobody. It is taking away from the accomplishments of those people. It is taking away from your accomplishments and your candidacy, and you're a better person without thinking that way. This career is long. There are multiple opportunities that are available. I truly believe that things will work out in the end if you allow them and you just continue to do good scholarship and be a good human. That's all I have. Thank you so much. And like Bailey mentioned, I'm happy to answer any questions beyond any discussions.
Welcome back. I hope you all enjoyed your time in the breakout rooms. I hope you got some good advice, some good feedback. We want to thank you again for attending this session, either in whole or in part. We want to leave you today with one final sort of note. If you would be willing to share some collective insights, there's a QR code shown here on the screen. Just pull up your phone and get a link to the form here. we want to leave you with a final countdown before we send you off on your way. So 3 pieces of advice that resonated with you today. We would love if you would share those. 2 things that you want to put into action, and 1 aspect of the job market that you would like to gain more perspective on. So access that QR code, drop those your responses in there. There's also a place in the form to request that these collective insights be shared with you. So there's a little bit of skin in the game here for participating. You can also sort of receive this report back once we aggregate it. ChatGPT aggregates it for us. But that's it. So we again, on behalf of myself and Beth Campbell and Margaret Luciano and the OB division, I want to thank you all for attending and wish you all the very best of luck and enjoy the rest of your summers. We hope to see you in Academy.
Thank you, everyone.